Thank you very much for staying on the marketplace. And now to a very fair story. And head of the European Union in Ghana, William Hanna, is urging government to be firm in handling its expenditure control mechanisms, as well as widening the tax net to rope in more taxpayers to improve revenue generation in the country. This, he said, will enable the country to save more money to enhance its beyond aid agenda. William Hanna was speaking with George Wiafi.
The move to try and change the relationship between development partners and countries like Ghana has it's been over a long period, but we see definitely a commitment to this beyond aid vision, and we see that aid has been declining over the years anyway. But the key areas that we see that are important are indeed this question of domestic resource mobilization, and as the Minister was saying, cutting down on wastage, cutting down on saving money from tightening expenditure controls. As he pointed out in what he was saying, if that is done well, more money can be saved even than the aid that's provided. So and that's why one of the projects which we're funding today is working on supporting Ghana in public financial management, supporting the Auditor General's office, for example. If expenditure can be controlled, and if the tax basis can be widened, then aid is no longer necessary. That's the way forward, and we see certainly Ghana is taking a lead. There's a lot of work to be done to raise the part of taxation to cut down on expenditure. The Minister was pointing to some results which have been achieved over the last year, and that's the direction it has to go. What we need to see is that instead of a country being dependent on aid, it is dependent on its own resources, and this is happening already. I said in my remarks that 15, 20 years ago, 16% of was coming from aid, and today it's only maybe 2%. So it's been declining over time. If the country gets its domestic resource mobilization better, tightens its controls, then it can grow in the future, and we're happy to support that growth.
Now, the Ghana gas processing plant at Atuabo in the western region is expected to be shut down from Thursday for about 25 days. This is to enable managers carry out major maintenance and expansion works. The concurrent shutdown of the Atuabo gas plant, together with the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah on the Jubilee field, will not cause any disruption in energy supply in the short to medium term. That's according to the Deputy Minister of Energy, Ureku Edu, who has also been confirmed that the ministry has secured the needed backup measures to complement both shutdowns. He's been speaking with Joy Business's Charles Aite.
Following recent development in the power sector, talking about the ongoing shutdown of the Atuabo gas plant, there have been various concerns about whether or not we're going to be experiencing some bouts of a power crisis in the country. Well, we're currently here with the Deputy Minister of Power, Honorable Ureku Edu, to help us understand the state of the power sector and its impact on the distribution and consumption of electricity, if indeed there is going to be something of that nature. He's going to be helping us clarify all these issues relating to the shutdowns of the Atuabo gas plant as well as the FPSO as well. And of course, we shall be getting these answers for him. Many thanks for your time here on Marketplace. So first of all, help us understand whether or not we're going to be experiencing a possible power crisis, in the next couple of weeks or so, or even the next couple of months following the shutdown of the Atuabo gas plant.
Thank you very much. The Atuabo and the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah are both going to be shut down from the 1st of February to the 21st. And this has resulted from some work on the turret. What I mean is there is a contraption, something is in front of the vessel. The vessel swivels around it, and this is supposed to be stationary. We've been having problems with this turret, and that is what needs to be worked on. And the engineers thought it wise to let it coincide with the scheduled maintenance plan with the Atuabo plant so that we can do both concurrently. And that is exactly what has happened. Whilst the FPSO is off, we're taking advantage of it to fix or maintain the Atuabo gas processing plant.
But some have also raised concerns about the timing, of the shutdown, the concurrent shutdown, both the FPSO and that of the Atuabo gas plant, saying that it could have an impact, in power supply. What's your take on this?
Yes, I think I just explained that. I would like to say it again. it is better to, whilst the FPSO Kwame Nkrumah is shut down for the work to be done on the turret, it's, I would have thought, smart move to take advantage whilst the FPSO is down to fix and maintain the Atuabo. So there actually was a conscious decision that was taken to let the maintenance time for the Atuabo processing plant coincide with the maintenance on the FPSO. As for potential possible power disruption, that has been taken care of. We have planned, what I mean, the Honorable Minister and his team, we've planned very consciously to keep the lights on by the provision of light crude oil to power the generators in the Abuazi corridor. And at the same time, we've had discussions with our brothers across the border in Ivory Coast, calling on the power supply agreement that we have with them to stand by to provide us the maximum of 150 megawatts of power should we need it, in case there is any unforeseen occurrence in any of our generators. Then we can fall on the Ivorians to supply us. So we are really in good position right now.
What's your take on the frequent shutdowns of the FPSOs? Of course, there could be something wrong.
Yes, I think I've alluded to that fact. We've been having problems with what they call the turret bearing, this swivel thing on the FPSO. It's been very challenging, but I do believe the engineers have been trying their best, and that is the reason why, indeed, this shutdown has come about. They continually working on it. It's a major problem that we've been having on this particular FPSO. So from a situation of inadequate power now, we have enough, and that did not just happen by accident. So conscious effort taken by the Honorable Minister and his team to get us to where we are today. So we are in a very good position as far as the power sector is concerned.
Minister, many thanks for having that interaction with us. So that was Deputy Minister for Energy there, explaining to us whether or not it's going to be the shutdown of the Atuabo and the FPSO is really going to have some effects on power disruption, if of course there could be anything of that nature. So we shall be following these updates quite clearly, and of course getting other experts to talk on this very matter to give you updates as and when we do have them.
Thank you very much, Charles Aite. We shall be returning to some more energy stories. But for now, let's turn to one of our breaking stories where the minority in Parliament is demanding the resignation of Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. They also want President Akufo-Addo to subject him to the full rigors of the law over how he managed the issuance of the $2.5 billion bond recently. The minority says Shraj's recent report on the bond issuance shows the Finance Minister broke the law. Minority spokesperson on finance, Ato Forson, says the president has 14 days to act against the finance minister, or they will initiate an act of censorship against him. We've been joined on the line by our parliamentary correspondent, Joseph Opoku Kakpo, to give us some more clarification on this. Joseph, you're welcome to the marketplace.
Good afternoon, Emmanuel.
Yes. Now, what exactly has the minority been saying?
So they've been quoting copiously from the Shraj report in question. You would recall that a member of the NDC, Broja Jemfi, petitioned Shraj to investigate allegations of conflict of interest in how the finance minister oversaw the issuance of the $2.25 billion bond. And according to the minority, the minister misled Ghanaians, for example, on the currency in which the bond was issued, because they quote from the Shraj report and they claim that the Shraj report came to the conclusion that the bond was actually issued in a foreign currency, particularly the dollar, but then the finance ministry kept insisting that was issued in the cedi. They think that this is improper practice on behalf of the minister. They again claimed that when it comes to the issuance calendar, there was an attempt to rush the second quarter calendar for the bond issuance, which failed, they say, and that according to the minority, again, quoting from the Shraj report, they say it gives them further evidence to the effect that Sharj ruling gave a definite statement or a definite decision that this is a process that should have gone for parliamentary approval. Again, the finance minister didn't do that. Then they went on to say there was a conflict of interest situation involving the finance minister in how some of his former business people got portions of the bond that was issued, and went on to make a point about was a virtual placement, which they think didn't go on well. They put all of this together and say with the bond process itself, they think was fraud with corruption to a certain extent, and so the minister should do the right thing and resign, or he should be fired by the president. They even went on to raise concerns about how Data Bank and the Enterprise Group of companies, which they say are companies linked to the finance minister, are getting themselves involved in government business. They made reference to the chief executive of the Enterprise Group, Kelly Gadepo, who is also serving on the board of the Bank of Ghana. They think that it's a situation of conflict of interest, and are even threatening that they may go to court in connection with that. Again, they make the point that they are alleging that 16 former workers of Data Bank and the Enterprise Group of Company have relocated to the Finance Ministry after the Finance Minister took office as Finance Minister, and they are helping run affairs at the Finance Ministry, while the directors of the ministry have been sidelined. They think it's also a bad practice for which they think the Finance Minister should be made to go.
All right, now, Joseph, did they make any reference to the petition of the U.S. Securities Exchange Commission?
So we asked them about that because this is something that they did last year, filed a petition to, the Security Exchange Commission in the U.S. and then the regulatory body when it comes to exchanges in Luxembourg. Well, according to the minority leader, Harun Idrisu, they are still awaiting feedback from those institutions on what exactly have come up after they commenced their investigation into these particular issues relating to the bond. They haven't gotten the necessary feedback yet. They are following the processes very keenly, and that as and when there's feedback from those institutions, they will let Ghanaians know about that.
All right, many thanks for your time, Joseph Opoku Gakpo, joining us live from Parliament with bringing us up to speed with developments at a news conference held by the minority in Parliament to bring to the attention of the President and demand the resignation of the Finance Minister, or calling on the President to actually sack the Finance Minister. Let's turn our attention back to the energy sector. And the National Petroleum Authority, NPA, is to recall all gas cylinders from domestic users as part of the rollout of the new National Cylinder Recirculation Policy. This is to ensure that various marketing companies to be licensed under the new regime get the right specifications for users. Chief Executive of the NPA, Hassan Tampuli, who disclosed this in an interview, emphasized safety assurance under the new program. This was at the sidelines of the ongoing first National Petroleum Downstream Colloquium organized by the NPA under the theme Ghana's Petroleum Downstream, Then, Now, and the Future.
So we have the first area is the bulk distribution points. Okay, they are required to have about 4,000 or 5,000 metric tons storage. Then you have the bottling plants, which is supposed to have about 1,000 metric ton storage. And the bottling plants will now give the products to the marketing companies. Now, initially, the bottling plant was supposed to procure, brand, and own the cylinders. But that is what we said that we may be tweaking because of the experiences that we have gained, especially best practice experiences that we have gained across from our working visits. So the marketing companies may be the ones to procure, brand, and own the cylinders. And then they will now move the cylinders to the distribution points. Okay, the bulk distribution points where you're going to have a lot of cylinders sitting in pellets, and then we'll now move them also to retail outlets close to us. And some will be able to deliver to consumers, in their various homes. There's the stage in the implementation regime, what we call total recall, cylinder recall. We'll recall the system cylinders in existence, and then we'll trade them off, okay? And then we'll retire cylinders which do not meet the safety parameters. Consumers are no longer going to own the cylinders. The cylinders are going to be procured and owned and branded by the marketing companies. So you and I will only have to just take an empty cylinder to a retail outlet and get a filled one. That's how it's going to be. If you want any size, if you want 3 kilos, you want 6 kilos, you want 9 kilos, 12 kilos, depending on the depth of your pockets, you can get any cylinder that you want that will meet your pockets. The recall will take place when we start rolling out, and that should be almost within the final stages. Because when you do that, consumers will now have to give out their cylinders. That should come at the last stage when we know that the marketing companies have gotten enough cylinders to roll out. Otherwise, there will be shortage in the system. So that's going to come, I'm sure, at the very, very last stage.
All right, so let's still stay on the first MPA colloquium for the downstream sector. And my colleague George Rafi was at the event, and he's joined me here for some more details. Now, George, what else came up at the ceremony?
Lots of issues. There was also an announcement by the energy minister about the fact that they are planning to make Ghana a hub for refining petroleum products. So where is this refinery going to be sited? He's talking about Takoradi. So this is more of a new refinery for the country. And the plan is that whilst they build that factory or that refinery to do this job for them and export refined product to other West African countries, gradually they'll make Tor a tank farm. So Tor will stop operating fully as a refinery. And the plan is that
the whims and caprices of many people.
So the plan is that they'll bring in some investors and help establish this new refinery that will be located in Takoradi. So that was what the minister was talking about. He was trying to justify why government is going that way because of the fact that the equipment at Tor is very old, and the money that they need actually to work on those equipments, it is best to actually establish or build a new refinery. That's why they are going that way.
Have they secured a private partner? Or
I think it's more work in progress, but it will start very, very, very soon. And he was saying that it doesn't make sense to put in this additional capital into Tor when that money can be used to build a new refinery. And that's why they are going ahead of it. He also spoke about the hedging program, and he also justified it. And he was saying that they are looking at the market in terms of looking at when will be the right time to kick into that program. And that should also, or that could happen very, very soon.
What else has he been talking about?
A lot of things also in the industry. There's talk about the current power situation, and earlier on you spoke to the energy minister, and also the concern that they also have with the Jubilee partners as in those frequent shutdowns. But they believe that the regulator, that is the Petroleum Commission, is on top of issues, and if there's supposed to be any sanction to any of the players in the industry, they are going to do that, because some have said that these shutdowns are too much, happen frequently too much. And we thought that that could have ended last year, but it looks like it's going to this year, and we might have 3 other shutdowns this year to work on the Jubilee field.
That's not too good. But George, this is a downstream colloquium, but was there any mention of the upstream sector being integrated with the downstream?
I don't think there was any talk about exploration openly, and also when it comes to marketing of these products. What we had in the morning was about those general talk from these key players. So the actual nitty-gritties, all the players, it's just begun actually with respect to those details, talk about those who are in the industry that they market the product, and those who are into the deep exploration of the product. And as the minister was saying, the plan is that very soon we could be competing with Nigeria in terms of refining, exploration, and even exporting the products.
Many thanks for your time,
Thank
George,
you so much
for that update. And George Rafi has just returned from the ongoing colloquium organized by the NPA. Let's now join Ebenezer Sabute, who is currently positioned at the colloquium grounds at the Kempinski Hotel in Accra, to also bring to us some more updates. Ebenezer, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Emmanuel.
All right, so what's going on now? What can you report?
As I speak to you, just a while ago, the second panel discussion, which has to do with the gas recirculation policy, has ended, and we are expecting some more discussions later on after.
Hello, Ebenezer.
Government policies that are needed to enhance. Emmanuel, can you hear me?
Yes, please go on.
So the senior minister was here earlier to speak about some government policies to ensure that infrastructure development in the sector are enhanced. He did mention that there will be the need for more infrastructure like refineries, because Ghana is finding more oil oil exploration in Ghana is becoming, more rampant. So there's the need for us to have the infrastructure to be able to contain the products that are coming out. He also spoke to the fact that very soon Ghana will become one of the oil giants, will be part of the big fives or the big six of oil producing countries in Africa. And the fact that there's the need for all stakeholders to together to support the government in whatever policies they are bringing on board to make sure that the sector progresses very well.
All right, now, have you heard anything by, the energy minister? Has he made any policy statement?
There hasn't been any policy statement yet, but we are actually expecting some because the senior minister did task him that whatever recommendations that will come from this colloquium should be forwarded to the economic management team, which they will give their support to it. So we are expecting, a policy document from the Ministry of Energy. It might not necessarily come from the energy minister, because as we speak, the energy minister is gone, but he have representatives here and some of the chief directors and directors from the office here who are representing him here. So we are expecting such, a policy direction from the ministry, but as of now, as I speak with you, there hasn't been any yet, except the mention of the gas recirculation model, which the boss of the NPA himself has elaborated earlier, that very soon we are going to have a recall of all domestic gas cylinders from our home.
All right, thank you very much,
it's actually to ensure that the specific
for that update. And that was Ebenezer Sabuti reaching us live from the Kempinski Hotel, where the first NPA downstream sector colloquium is currently ongoing. Now, becoming the Ghanaian inventor and car manufacturer, Safo Kantanka seems far away, a dream, but that is not deterring a 24-year-old Abbas Shaibu from pursuing that dream. The JHS dropout has started by making electric toy cars from empty cans. Abbas concludes our series this month of January on entrepreneurs turning waste into useful products on the Joy Business Van. Let's see some excerpts.
Abbas Shaibu is just returning from collecting empty cans littered on the streets. He lives in the slums of Temanu town, where litter is really a problem. Abbas, however, has got use for these cans. He makes electric toy vehicles from them. The 24-year-old started making these at the age of 6, he recalls, while he was in the Upper East region.
Through my friends, I became interested of it. So sometimes they do come to me and ask me to do it for them. So as I'm doing it, I develop more and more interest in it.
But how Abbas discovered to make these electric toy vehicles remains a mystery.
Nobody taught me how to do these things. I just found myself doing it one day. I can't really tell the exact day.
Okay.
Yes.
You like vehicles, you like cars naturally?
Yes, I like cars naturally. Since I was born, I used to take wood and do these things. So I love cars. I love cars a lot.
Okay. So growing up, was it something you wanted to take really seriously?
Even in a dream, sometimes I found myself doing it. So I do ask myself, why am I still doing this in a dream? So I don't understand. So I said, no, okay, let me just do it. If it is my desire, let me just bring it out.
The full story will air this evening on Business Live on the Joy News channel. And that's a wrap for today's edition of The Marketplace. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. Thank you very much for watching. Do join me again same time tomorrow. Have a good night.